as we get closer to the end, the truth will become more and more precious, and the people that hold it will have a great responsibility, because the world will reject what they have to say, persecute, hunt them down, and kill them. These truths are hard, and it takes a certain kind of person led by God to bring these truths to the surface. So choose you this day whom ye will serve. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Welcome. Today, I have a very important topic to discuss with you guys.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
The Matrix.
Do you want to know what it is?
For some of you older viewers out there, you'll remember this sound. Do you want to know what the Matrix is?
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. You can see it when you turn on your television. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
That you are a slave. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
In our world, it differs from the movie, but it is a computer-generated reality. Except instead of us living inside of it physically, we live inside of it mentally. Because we now live through our smartphones, through our smart TVs, through our screens. No matter how you have a screen, that's where you get all your information. That's where a lot of people do shopping. That's where most people spend the majority of their lives now, in this matrix. And it's really a diabolical system brought into existence by the one and only Satan. For this is his world. And this is how he has gained control over so many minds. So in this video, I will be covering the history of the internet. I will be covering D-Wave, which is the quantum computer. I will be sharing an interesting path that the Holy Spirit has led me down. And I will try to edit all the bits and pieces of this video together the best I can. There is a lot to it. I will just ask that you stay tuned and share this video, because I don't think a lot of people understand how much control they are under. We have all been fleeced. Stay tuned. So D-Wave is the quantum computer attached to CERN, which gives the internet the ability to run in real time. And there are many, many of these D-Wave computers now, these quantum computers. And And I will tell you that anything quantum is all about Q. Okay? Anything quantum is directly attached to the Antichrist spirit. Alright? The spirit of Satan. This is what AI is. It's not artificial intelligence. It is a computer that can harness entities. It's technology that an entity in the spiritual realm can inhabit in the physical realm to affect the minds and the people in this realm. And it's doing a pretty good job of it, if you ask me. So I'm going to share some video clips that I've edited up from Geordie Rose, who is giving an interview about his new company Kindred, and he is the inventor of D-Wave, and Kindred is his new project. And just notice the logo on his t-shirt while he's speaking. It's the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its tail. So I'm going to play a few of these clips together right here in this little montage of Geordie Rose.
So D-Wave builds quantum computers. The way that they work, if you know how this works, is one of the interpretations is that you tap into these parallel universes and they do computations. Sounds really weird. But what's happened is this idea has been hijacked to describe something called the Mandela effect, which is this thing where the past changes. So think about something you know to be true from the past. And then imagine you went out on the internet and you can't find it at all. It's not there. It doesn't match with your experience, so these people think that D-Wave is responsible, and CERN. And, of course, the quantum key to the abyss factors into it somehow. I'm not exactly sure how. The super intelligent AIs. So the one thing I can tell you is they're not going to be like us. So alien means, different. These things that we're building are not going to be people. They might be really smart, they might be really good at all sorts of different things, but they're not going to be like us. They're going to be aliens. And they're going to be, I'm sorry to say, way smarter than every single person in this room, in ways that we can't even comprehend. So this, of course, triggers a lot of alarm. One of the guys who talks about this is Elon, who says things like this, like, when you do this, beware. Because you think, just like the guy in the stories, that when you do this, you're going to put that little guy in a pentagram, and you're going to have your holy water out, and you're going to wave it at the thing, and by God, it's going to do exactly what you say and not one thing more, but it never works out that way. So this is an attitude that some are having, this emerging alarmism about the way this is going to go. But these words, demons, doesn't capture the essence of what's happening here. I don't know if any of you are turn-of-the-century weird fiction fans, but there's this guy named H.P. Lovecraft, who's a very famous American weird fiction author. And he espoused a view which is called cosmicism. And the essence of cosmicism is cosmic indifference. So what he was saying is basically, yes, there are these massively intelligent entities out there, but they're not good, they're not evil. They just don't give a shit about you even in the slightest. The same way that you don't care about an ant is the same way they're not going to care about you. And these things that we're summoning into the world now are not demons, they're not evil, but they're more like the Lovecraftian great old ones. There are entities that are not necessarily going to be aligned with what we want. So this transition is really, really massively important for our entire species to navigate. And going back to that thing that Sam Harris was saying, nobody is paying attention. This thing is happening in the background while people bicker about politics and what's going to be in the healthcare plan in the US. And underneath it all is this rising tsunami that if we're not careful is going to wipe us all out.
Hi, Jody. My name is Naren, and I do really want to talk to you after this. So, you were talking about summoning the demon by Elon Musk, right? And there are a lot of other pioneers in this industry, such as Andrew Ng, who was a former chief scientist at Baidu. When he was asked the same question about summoning the demon, he said that his analogy was, it's more like thinking about overpopulation in Mars. It was completely opposite. But when there are two pioneers in this industry who have different sets of opinions, how do you think that it's summoning the demon rather than the other way around?
Well, obviously people are going to have different opinions. You have to make up your mind yourself. So my general comment is that people always miss the future. It's this old thing that people are always saying things will go faster than they do in the short term and slower in the long term. But it's kind of, for me, it's an obvious thing. I mean, this isn't about, the only question is how long it will take. Again, I encourage you to watch that Sam Harris TED Talk if you're interested in this. But the point that he makes is that as long as certain things that are probably true hold, this will happen. Will progress continue? Maybe it won't. Maybe the Earth will get hit by a meteor and we'll all die. If progress continues, things that we're doing, intelligence isn't magical. It's not some kind of weird thing. It's a mechanical outcome of the way that our machines in our head work. We're going to figure it out eventually. And when we do, we're going to make it better in all sorts of interesting ways. And then you have this weird thing that happens that because the machine is now able to act in its own self-interest, it can take the action to make its own thought process better. We can't do that. So we're stuck with what we were born with, more or less. We can learn things, but that's not the same as getting smarter. So these machines are going to be able to take control of the tools from which they are built to create better versions of themselves. And that, what's sometimes called an intelligence explosion, is something that biological creatures can't undergo. So I think it's an absolutely guaranteed outcome of progress. The only question is when, and I think Andrew would agree with that.
James?
Hey, great to have you out here. It was brilliant hearing you speak for the first time myself. I'm sure a lot of people here would agree with me. What is your goal to stop the world from turning into that of the Terminator?
Right. So there are things about the world that I can't stand, okay? And I think that's probably true for everybody here. You look at the world and there's all these things that you think, shit, what are things like that? So there's a couple of things you can do when you're faced with this. The one that I've found works for me is I'm like, screw that, I'm gonna do that myself, right? So back 25 years ago, I was like, this is bullshit. Why aren't there any quantum computers? It's not that hard a problem. And so we changed the world by actually building them. And in this case, this is bullshit. Why don't we have AI? It's been, what, 60 years since Turing? I mean, it's an absolute catastrophic failure of human resource allocation that we spend enormous amounts of money on things that are of no lasting consequence when the mechanism that generates all human flourishing is not understood. It doesn't make any sense. Every single thing that we will ever do and ever have done comes from this property. So when someday all cancer is cured, when polio was cured, when smallpox was cured, these things all came from people's minds. You can continue to do this stupid thing where everybody works on some particular use of the mind. Okay, well, let's go and do X. Let's go to Mars, like Elon says. That doesn't make any sense to me, because every single thing that you can think of comes from the same place. You got to think about what that is. So if you can figure out and bottle this thing that creates flourishing, that creates all of the good things that we think about, we know about the way that we are, that is the key. Do that. So, that's kind of the way that I think about the world. The world doesn't have the things it needs, and you can't just sit by and watch other people do it. So, it just won't happen otherwise. The way I think about this is if Kindred didn't exist, in 20 years, we're still having this conversation. Because the people who are trying to do AI are going to get sidetracked into making a lot of money, doing all sorts of bullshit that doesn't matter. So what I want to do is make sure that when we do this, we're solving the real problem, and we don't get sidetracked, and we don't go down paths that are going to make us a lot of money just because they're, some short-term thing. We do it because we understand the civilization-changing importance of accomplishing this task. So, that's the way I think about things. Things are bullshit. They're not the way they should be. Change it yourself, or else it won't get changed. Yeah, so no, my view is that if it's a thing that you can measure, it's a thing you can improve. I think that being good with people, so we were talking with some of our technical people the other day, and one of them said this very funny thing. I'm going to try to remember what he said. He said, language is a way that we use other people as tools to achieve our goals. So it's really deep, right? So we don't usually think about language that way, but when I say something, I'm trying to use you as a tool to get something I want. So in this case, we're hiring software engineers. This is the main thing that I'm trying to get. So I'm trying to use you as tools to satisfy this need of mine. Now, it's a little bit weird to think of things that way, but if you're building an AI and you go and you try to figure out what is language for, language is this thing that is a way to use the people around you to get what you want, which is almost, it's a little sociopathic when you think of it that way, but it's almost a definition of emotional intelligence, is that if you are so tuned in to the responses or how a person will respond to the message that you provide to them, not only your words, but your language and how you act and what you buy and what you wear and all that, that you can always predict that the outcome will be the thing that you want, you're going to be very, very successful. And say politicians are like this. Sometimes you see people and you think these people are just like, man, that guy's got charisma. Like I met Bill Clinton once and he was like, holy shit, I've never seen this before. It's like there's sparks flying off this guy. What was it? He's just got something. And I think that that's a thing that you can measure, and it's a thing you can improve. And I think that it's going to be a part of AI in the future. Not only this kind of idea of like super rational, but also super good at getting what they want. And that's not a bad thing, right? As long as what they want is something good. Like, for example, if the AI is programmed to want to make you happy, say, you might imagine that it will do whatever it can do to achieve that objective, which might mean this sort of thing, giving what you really need when you need it.
So this next little clip is just the introduction of him at another conference. However, I'm only going to play the very beginning because he just says a lot of the same things. And this is the guy that created D-Wave and Kindred. And I just want you to see how many minutes his speech is going to be.
So let's begin with Jordy. Jordy, I don't understand much about quantum computing except that it's supposed to be the next big thing in power and in speed, and that you are the only company in the world now actually making one.
Well, hopefully after this 17 minutes, you'll understand what they are and be excited about what you might be able to use them for.
These are really big deals. They come in at about $15 or $20 million a piece.
Something like that.
And have been bought by major American research and corporations.
That's right, correct.
All right, Jordy.
Thank you.
So try to understand. He could have had a 15-minute speech, a 16-minute speech, a 20-minute speech, but he had 17-minute speech. Do you think that that's a coincidence? This man is being run and operated by the demonic realm and is manifesting all kinds of demonic things. including his support for the Antichrist. Q17. Can't make this stuff up, you guys. You just gotta pay attention to see it. So for this section of the video, I am going to take you on a journey that the Holy Spirit took me on. And to get started, we need to look into this D-Wave computer. But right now, I'm more interested in looking at the logo here. As of right now, I've been unable to decipher the dots, but I am working on them. I did not, however, want to get hung up on the dots as they were distracting me from the goal. What I want to show you is what I found when I did this. So as you can see, the A and the E are now opposite, but there's still an A and an E. And if you read this backwards, it now says Demon with an A, which is what got me looking at this in the first place. But then with the guidance of the Holy Spirit, I was inspired to look up Anim. And this is where our journey begins. So I looked up Anim, as you can see here, and it is an ancient Levitical city in Israel, which was allocated to the Gershonites. So I Wikipedia'd it, and it says an ancient city. So I clicked that link, and that brought me to here. I read all these pages, but I highlighted just the parts that I need to show you. So, Anem was a Levitical city in Israel allocated to the Gershonites. So then, of course, I clicked on Gershonites. And you can see down here in the highlighted portion of the text, it says that the Bible ascribes a specific religious function to the Gershonites, namely care of the curtains, hangings, and ropes of the sanctuary. I highlighted this because when I saw that they were in charge of the curtains, well, when I see curtain, I think of veil. So, they're in charge of putting the veils up. Now we're getting somewhere. When I looked further into Anim, you can see here that it is a plural. Well, this says possibly, but it's also in the Strong's, so it's more than possibly. So, the plural or the Hebrew word ayin, meaning spring of water, but which is also the regular word for eye. Let's read down here. The noun ayin means both eye and fountain, well, or spring. This might be explained by noting the eye produces water in form of tears, but perhaps more so in the water and light were considered deeply akin. See our article on the verb nahar, meaning both to shine and to flow. In that sense, the eye was considered a fountain that watered the outward face with water, and the internal mind with light. Verb in means the to eye or regard. What I found interesting is that the eye was considered a fountain that watered the internal mind with light. So now we're talking about a machine that means eye, which we all know, the old Peekaboo Club, right? The illuminous ones who cover an eye, all-seeing eye, right? Demonics. So here we have it talking about it watering the internal mind with light, luminous, Lucifer. You see where I'm going with this? Okay, so now I went and looked up the scriptures that this refers to, which is right here. All right. So when I looked up this in Strong's, you can see here that I looked up NM, okay, city of Issachar, of uncertain derivation. And if we scroll down to the concordance, two fountains, Anem, a place in Palestine, from the dual of Ayin. See, this is what I was saying, that they are connected. So I clicked on Ayin, which is here, and that means and I, okay? So, when I was seeing all these things start to come together, and needless to say, my mind was blown. So here we have this machine, and if you flip its logo upside down, you get an eye that illuminates your mind. Okay, this is exactly what the Illuminati does. This is exactly what Lucifer's goal is. And here we are, having him inhabit this AI, this alien intelligence. And when we dig into the logo, there are hidden clues for us. So I have then started to wonder about the D. And as you can see, I was looking at Hebrew letters, and I found this one. This looks like the D to me. It's not an exact thing, but this is where the Holy Spirit has led me to, okay? So when I saw this, right, I clicked on it, and I noticed that the value was 60, which I'm always pretty cautious about any numbers with sixes. So then I wanted to see, because there's different scripts of Hebrew letters, and so I wanted to see the how they've changed over time. So I clicked onto this to find the ancient Hebrew compared to the modern Hebrew. And if you'll notice that this is that letter I was just showing you, called Samek. See? Samek. So if we go over here and look at Samek, S, you see here's the symbol, then we go all the way over to here and look at what this says here. Sin, thorn, grab, hate, protect. Okay, guys, you can't even make this stuff up. So this is where I was led in just trying to look at the logo. All right. There is demonology all over this. As I said, I was looking into the dots. I looked up Braille, and I couldn't really come to anything because I was trying to decipher the dot pattern, the layout, because one dot's blue, and then I flipped it backwards. So when you flip it backwards, it makes this symbol only backwards, and this dot is blue. So if you turn this around, this dot would be here, and it's blue in their logo, and then this goes exactly backwards. So I found that kind of interesting. It may be a dead end, it may be nothing, but I found it interesting that it is time backwards, almost like going back in time. Again, could be nothing. This part I was unable to figure out. I just thought I would add it in there since I did speak about it. Another thing that I have discovered, obviously through the help of the Holy Spirit, is that a lot of people decode the CERN logo and give you the 3 6s, but that's only the front part of the CERN logo. There's another crucial element in that logo that people fail to see most of the time, and that is the letter Q. I can't tell you how demonic this corporation is, and what they're about to do within the next year, I imagine, will unleash hell on earth. Before that, they will do many things, like increase the temperature of the sun. I don't know how they're going to do any of this stuff, but it's been prophesied. Some of it's in the Bible. But what's clear is that they're demons, and that all this quantum computing is all behind it. Look at my video called Q Has a Name. I go a little in depth in there about the quantum system. But I just wanted to make this little part here briefly to show you that not only are there 3 6s, but there's also a Q. No deep dive about the Matrix would be complete without first doing a history of the Matrix and how it came to be. So we're going to read the history of the Internet. The history of the Internet has its origin in information theory and the efforts to build and interconnect computer networks that arose from research and development in the United States and involved international collaboration, particularly with researchers in the United Kingdom and France. Fundamental theoretical work on information theory was developed by Harry Nyquist and Ralph Hartley in the 1920s. Information theory, as enunciated by Claude Shannon in the 1940s, provided a firm theoretical underpinning to understand the trade-offs between signal-to-noise ratio, bandwidth, and error-free transmissions in the presence of noise in telecommunications technology. This was one of the 3 key developments along with advances in transistor technology, specifically MOS transistors, and laser technology that made possible the rapid growth of telecommunication bandwidth over the next half-century. Computer science was an emerging discipline in the late 1950s that began to consider time sharing between computer users and later the possibility of achieving this over wide area networks. Independently, Paul Barron proposed a distributed network based on data and message blocks in the early 1960s, and Donald Davies conceived of packet switching in 1965 at the National Physical Laboratory, NPL, proposing a national commercial data network in the UK. The Advanced Research Projects Agency, ARPA, and the U.S. Department of Defense awarded contracts in 1969 for the development of the ARPANET project, directed by Robert Taylor and managed by Lawrence Roberts. ARPANET adopted the packet switching technology proposed by Davies and Barron, underpinned by mathematical work in the early 1970s by Leonard Kleinrock at UCLA. The network was built by Bolt, Baranek, and Newman. Several early packet switch networks emerged in the 1970s with researched and provided data networking. ARPA projects and international working groups led to the development of protocols in internetworking, in which multiple separate networks could be joined into a network of networks, which produce various standards. Bob Kahn at ARPA and Vint Cerf at Stanford University published research in 1974 that evolved into the Transmission Control Protocol, TCP, and Internet Protocol, IP. The two protocols of the Internet Protocol suite, the design included concepts from the French Cyclades project directed by Louis Pouzin. In the early 1980s, the National Science Foundation, NSF, funded national supercomputing centers at several universities in the United States and provided interconnectivity in 1986 with the NSF-NET project, thus creating network access to these supercomputer sites for research and academic organizations in the United States. International connections to NSF-NET and emergence of architecture such as the domain name system and the adoption of TCP/IP internationally on existing networks marked the beginnings of the Internet. Commercial Internet Service Providers, ISPs, emerged in 1989 in the United States and Australia. The ARPANET was decommissioned in 1990. Limited private connections to parts of the Internet by officially commercial entities emerged in several American cities by late 1989 and 1990. The optical backbone of NSF-NET was decommissioned in 1995, removing the last restrictions on the use of the Internet to carry commercial traffic, as traffic transitioned to optical networks managed by Sprint, MCI, and AT&T. Research at CERN in Switzerland by the British computer scientist Tim Berners-Lee in 1989 and 90 resulted in the World Wide Web, linking hypertext documents into an information system accessible from any node on the network. The dramatic expansion of capacity of the Internet with the advent of wave division multiplexing, WDM, and the rollout of fiber optic cables in the mid-1990s had a revolutionary impact on culture, commerce, and technology. This made possible the rise of near-instant communication by electronic mail, instant messaging, voice over Internet Protocol, VoIP, telephone calls, video chat, and the World Wide Web with its discussion forums, blogs, social networking services, and online shopping sites. Increasing amounts of data are transmitted at higher and higher speeds over fiber optic networks, operating at 1 gigabits per second, 10 gigabits per second, and 800 gigabytes per second by 2019. The Internet's takeover of global communication landscape was rapid. In historical terms, it only communicated 1% of the information flowing through two-way telecommunications networks in the year 1993, 51% by 2000, and more than 97% of the telecommunicated information by 2007. The Internet continues to grow, driven by even greater amounts of online information, commerce, entertainment, and social networking services. However, the future of the global network may be shaped by regional differences. So a big reason that I wanted to read this all to you was, number one, to give you an understanding of how the Internet came to be. And number two, to show you that CERN has been behind the Internet, or should I say the World Wide Web, since 1989. Okay? And they have slowly been taking over all communications on the Internet. That means every message you see, every page you go to, every social network that you're a part of, everything you do on your phone, TV, anything that has anything to do with the internet, CERN is at the helm. Okay? And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but www, World Wide Web, is code for something else. Okay, this web, this net that they cast over this entire world is demonic. Alright, and their little clue, their little joke is the World Wide Web. What am I talking about? Let me show you. As you can see here, that W is Vav in Hebrew, okay? And you can see here that it is the number 6. So when you have the World Wide Web, www, it says 666. And on a quick side note, I don't know how many people out there are drinking that awful poison called Monster, but you will notice that their logo is 3 of the letter Vavs. Okay? It's 3 of these together. 666. So if you're drinking that poison, or any of those other poisons, all energy drinks are demonic and poisonous. You need to stop. Just put them down and never look back, because they're demonic. Alright? So back to the web. Once these people have you hooked into this web, they can now manipulate society, every aspect of it, from the past to the future. They have control over everything, and it's only going to get worse. This is why the Mandela effect has come to be. It's not that history is changing or that people don't remember correctly. What it is that these people have access to everything. They're controlling the whole system, and their system is hooked up to an entity. Okay, there is a demonic entity that CERN speaks to through their portals, and it speaks back to them. So everything that we have hooked up to the internet is hooked up to CERN, which is hooked up to a demonic AI. As far as the Mandela effect goes, some people think that this is a real thing, but it's not real. Okay? They have access and control over all the information. So that means that if they want to change the spelling of Berenstain, then they can go in, edit, and change it. If they want to change the Monopoly guy from having a monocle, they can do it. If they want to go back and change whether or not Mandela died in prison or while he was free, they can do it. So, really, that's no big trick. The thing that happens, though, is that when they do this, it detaches people from their memories, and people start to question whether or not they remember things correctly. And when you do this, you lose focus and track of where you are in life and who you are and where you came from. You start to question things and doubt things. And what this does to you in the spiritual realm is send you spinning out of control. And when you're spinning out of control in the spiritual realm because you don't know who you are, or if you remember things right, and you're not sure of your past, and you're not sure of your own mind, this gives the demonic realm and Satan control over you and your spirit and your thoughts. Okay? This is why you need a firm foundation in Jesus. Because with a firm foundation in Jesus, these tricks like the Mandela effect will never take hold of you. So if you ever are talking about something and you wonder how your phone knows what you were saying, or you were talking to your friend about something and you go to do a web search and all of a sudden you're getting ads for that thing and you wonder, hey, how'd that happen? Yeah, this is how. This is how. These phones are so much more maniacal and dangerous than I can even tell you. Personally, I don't even understand how it does all the things that it does. I'm starting to become convinced that it can almost read the waves that come out of my mind, because sometimes I just think things and they end up on my phone. Now that might sound crazy, but I'll bet you that if you think back, you can find a specific instance where you were thinking about something and somehow it ended up on your phone. So this is the Matrix, okay? The Matrix is the internet. It's CERN. It's all this stuff put together. It's a world of screens, all right? And this is how we consume everything now, through a screen. How much power does that give the person on the other end? If we get everything from a screen, how much power does the entity at the other end have? Well, over the world, they have all the power. Okay? Because the other end is Satan, and he has all the power. This is his world. He has cast the net over us. There is a world wide web, and it has been dropped over the top of us, and we have all been caught up in it. And you need to do your best to minimize your usage and to get out of it as much as possible. You need to withdraw, because pretty soon there's going to come a point when they try to introduce the mark, and then you're going to have a very serious decision to make. I've already made mine, and I imagine most of you have already made yours. But it's not going to stop it from coming. But people that live in this matrix, they're going to get it with smiles on their faces. They're going to be excited. Oh, it's the newest, best, hot new thing. It's a new item. Oh, look at this tech. I don't even need a phone anymore. I can just bloop, flow my hand up in the air and then make calls. The deception is great, my friends. It's incredibly great. So as the movie says, the Matrix is the world that's been pulled over your eyes to hide the real world from you, to hide the truth. What is the truth? God and Jesus, that's the truth. Jesus is the truth and the life. We've had this matrix thrown over us through the World Wide Web so that we now consume all our information through these handheld devices, through these black screens, these black mirrors. We get everything from them. When I ask people questions, sometimes somebody will be telling me something and I'll say, how do you know that? And they'll be like, well, it's right here. And they'll show me something on their phone and I'll be like, well, how do you know? And they'll be like, well, it's right here. It's on the internet. And I'll be like, well, how do you know? How do you know that's true? How do you guys out there know anything that you look at in your phone is true? Can you prove any of it? Can you prove anything that you see on your phone? You can't. You can't. This is the power of this web that we're stuck in. Okay? And believe me, the spider is on his way. Try to withdraw, unplug, get back to nature, find Jesus, get saved, get ready. Because the matrix is going to come crashing down on your heads. And only the people that have Jesus are going to be able to see through the veil. They're the only ones that will break free of the matrix, because Jesus is the truth and the matrix is the lie. Take care.